Naked Truth Show, where we talk all things to do with sex, sexuality, and health. I'm sure by now you know the anthem. It is here for you and for us to help you decide what it means to be sexually liberated. We are here to break and change social norms about sex. And like always, I am not here talking all by myself. I have a guest, and he's going to help us to understand about sex, reproduction, and health, and rights a little bit better, and also where we can get help in times of need and in times of distress. I have with me Norman Makunika, who is going to be our guest for this episode. Welcome, Norman.
Thank you so much.
Excited to have you here.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. So we've had like beautiful episodes, amazing episodes where we talked all things to do with sex, whether it was sex workers in Zimbabwe, sex and consent, sex and disability, adventurous sex. We've spoken a lot to do with sex. I could go on, but the understanding of sex and reproduction and health is something that we still need to understand. What can you tell us about that?
So I believe sexual and reproductive health is the complete physical, mental, and spiritual, social well-being in the matters that is relating to the reproductive system. Not merely the absence of disease, but it also talks about aspects of safe and satisfying sex and the ability for people to decide when and how they would want to have children successfully.
All right.
Yes.
So do you get people who come through to the clinics or the organizations where you work, or where you, like the people that you work with, asking you questions to do with sexual reproduction, like they don't know anything? They're like, kutanga kutoti ndibatsirei ndinzwisise.
So basically, I believe like people, most of the people, when we talk about sexual and reproductive health, they only focus only on the curative aspect of sexual and reproductive health, or like the preventative aspect of sexual and reproductive health. That is access to condoms, or access to information, or access to STI treatment, access to maybe abortion services and stuff. But like the whole topic of sexual and reproductive health goes way beyond those aspects, and I believe in Zimbabwe, most service providers are beginning to even provide services that are beyond just the preventative aspect of sexual and reproductive health, or the curative aspect of sexual and reproductive health.
What should we be asking in terms of sexual reproductive health?
I believe when we talk about sexual and reproductive health, we should talk about aspects that includes family planning, sexual behavior, abortion, sexually transmitted infections, sexual and reproductive health rights, which is something that is a little bit silent and neglected, like by most organizations. They don't actually focus on sexual and reproductive, the rights aspect of sexual and reproductive health.
What are the rights aspects?
For example, the rights to the rights to abortion services, to like and the provision of abortion services within the legally allowed or permitted frameworks of the Zimbabwean laws and systems, and also access to sexual and reproductive health services of key populations. We have our gays, lesbians, transgender, and bisexual populations. We also have sexual and reproductive health aspects of prisoners. We also have sexual and reproductive aspects of sex workers, which are equally important, like services that should be offered the same way sexual and reproductive health of all the general population is offered.
All right. What other information do you think the general public just needs to know about sex, sexuality, and health as a whole?
I believe in terms of the basic general information of what sexual and reproductive health is, and in terms of knowledge, I believe our general population is not lacking in terms of knowledge, but the population is lacking in translating the kind of knowledge to services, because there seems to be a gap or discrepancy between the knowledge levels of the general population, be it young population, adults, or young girls, and the practice aspect, or the access of those services. Like, if we look at statistics, more than 90% or above 80% of our population have knowledge of basic sexual and reproductive health services that are being offered across the country. But when we look at the translation of that knowledge into practices, those people that we ask and they say that they know about condoms, they know about STI, they know about all other preventive services. If you ask them if they have access to those services themselves as a people,
It's a different story.
It's a different story. And also aspects like people know about the dangers of STI, early and unintended pregnancies and whatever. But like when they are in a setup where
it's actually happening.
It's actually happening, you know, it seems like the knowledge and everything disappears. And people only think about prevention after the act of having sex.
After the act of having sex.
Yes.
Now, speaking of sex, as a nation, yeah, we term ourselves to be very conservative, and we don't want to talk about sex. Why is sex a taboo topic to discuss?
I believe that the sex has been socialized to be a taboo, be it from a religious perspective or from our social or cultural perspective. And then in our culture, be it different cultures of Zimbabwe, sex is something that is expected for you to have whilst you're married. Mm-hmm. Before marriage is something that you cannot even talk about it. So the traditional cultural channels of talking about sex for both males and females, they can only talk about sex maybe before a week or some days before marriage. And then in our religion, sex has been something that has been always been associated as demonic, as something that has to do with the devil. You cannot talk about sex or on the pulpit and not be labeled, or people might not like publicly show that they dislike the topic, but they will be whispering against it. And I have had cases of pastors being transferred because they decided to talk about comprehensive sexuality education on the pulpit. I've had people, you know, deciding to change church because the pastors has been beginning to embrace key population, gays, lesbians, and bisexual and transgender people rights within the churches and something. So I believe that the way we are socialized as a people is something that no matter how educated you are, when it's happening, especially like with the educated population, when it's happening in your own household, fine, you can be okay with it happening outside. But when it's happening within your own household or within your own family members, you know, it begins to be a challenge. So I believe that the way we have been socialized is something that needs to be changed. And I believe organizations are doing quite well in that area of trying to change how people view sex, be it in religious circle or a cultural, traditional circles.
If you are just joining us, this is the Naked Truth Show. Now, what I want you to do is to grab your phone and take the information that is going to be appearing on your screen. When we come back, we are going to be discussing more about sexual reproduction and health and where you can find help should you be in need. Stay tuned.
Check it out.
We are talking to the young, the old, both male and female. Key populations are included. We are including everyone when it comes to sex, health, and sexuality. With me is Norman, and we covered quite a bit. Norman, please explain to me what are the types of SRH services that we have?
So when we talk about sexual and reproductive health services, we have to talk about information services so that people can know about different services that are there. Mm-hmm. What are the different sexual and reproductive health challenges that are there? So there is information services.
Information
services. And on the information side, we have quite a number of organizations that have been on the forefront of providing sexual and reproductive health information over the years. We have National AIDS Council, we have organizations like SAF-AIDS, and we have organizations like UNESCO. They've been running different programs and projects to provide comprehensive sexual and reproductive health information to the people. And then we also have care and treatment services. Mm-hmm. Care and treatment services, these are services that like take care of people when they get sick or when they get like these SRS challenges, be it pregnancy, be it HIV, be it STIs or other complications. So, and on sexual and reproductive health care and treatment services, we have different organizations such as OFID, we have ZimTech, FHI Zimbabwe, that have been offering care and treatment services across the country.
Right.
And also we have psychosocial services. Because when people have these challenges, they have a huge mental toll.
It can mess with the
yes, it can
brain.
mess with them. So there is need for like psychosocial services to make sure that people psychologically are taken care of, that they go through different counseling sessions to make sure that they are there and do well with the treatment. And for that, we have organizations like Zwandiri that have been providing extensive and brilliant psychosocial services, and organizations like Friendship Bench. We have organizations like ZNP Plus that have been like providing good psychosocial services, especially to people living with HIV or other sexual and reproductive health complications. And we also have menstrual health services. Now, this has been one of the sexual and reproductive health services that have been neglected over the years. You know,
because we think we know. Right?
yes, people were not talking about menstrual health and menstrual hygiene. So it's something that has been like
I like that,
coming
menstrual
up,
hygiene.
Yes, coming up over, I think in the past 2, 3 or 4 years, the awareness of menstrual hygiene has been increasing, and people have been like different organizations. For example, SNV has been having Girls in Control program that was trying to provide menstrual health and menstrual hygiene services across the country. We have Plan International and different other community-based organizations that have been trying to provide menstrual health services. We also have comprehensive sexual and reproductive health challenges. So comprehensive sexual and reproductive health challenges, these are services. These are services like that are being provided by organizations that like provide the whole package, that does not only focus on males or on females or on young people or on young adults. Yes, it's inclusive, and it's a whole package. And we have been having, for example, one of the best example of comprehensive sexual and reproductive health challenge that has been offered out there is like being offered through the DREAMS program. We have different organizations that are implementing on the DREAMS program that is trying to provide services to young women, and on educational services, sexual and reproductive health services.
But is their focus mainly on the women because it's menstrual?
Yes.
So their focus is mainly on the girl child.
It's a comprehensive package, but that is targeting only women.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
So that at least it can help and assist them in all aspects of sexual and reproductive health challenges. As I said earlier, that sexual and reproductive health services does not only focus on the clinical aspects or the curative aspects, but it goes even beyond clinical or public health aspects to make sure that people have all the facilities that will enable them to have safe and satisfying sex.
Right.
So
I like the fact that you kept on saying all this is being done so that you can have safe and satisfying.
Yeah, it has
like
to be
satisfying. The key
satisfying.
point is satisfying.
Yes, but over the years, people were not talking about the satisfying because they're saying, hey, as long as you have sex, it's fine. But the satisfying aspect is also something that is important in the provision of sexual and reproductive health challenge. Because when you have STIs, you cannot have safe and satisfying sex. When you have poor menstrual hygiene services, you cannot have safe and satisfying sex. When you can't have access to condoms, you cannot have safe and satisfying sex.
That's right.
So that safe and satisfying sex has to be emphasized. And when people are not getting safe and satisfying sex, multiple partners begin to creep in, and a whole lot of other problems begin to creep in as people will be in search of safe and satisfying sex.
That's right. So after comprehensive services, what other services do you have?
So we also have preventative services. And these are our condoms, these are our pre and exposure.
The ones that everyone
Yes,
like.
these are our pre and post-exposure prophylaxis. These are our morning afters. This is our HIV testing and abstinences. And
when you said morning after, my mind did a rewind. I remember when I was living in South Africa, I had a group of friends, and they would use morning afters as a contraceptive. Like, they were on it as a contraceptive, and I'm thinking, how? And they never fell pregnant, but they would use them within 2 cycles, like within the same cycle. And I was like, How? And then someone else tries it and it's like, ooh, I'm pregnant.
So I think I might not be qualified to comment on that, but
Yeah.
but it's one of those essential service that has to be provided to our people and to people out there. Well, when you have sex, you have to be able to decide when and how to have a baby. So okay, fine. Maybe this minute you want to have a baby, but the morning after you don't want to have a baby, you have to have that access to that morning after tablet so that at least your sexual and reproductive health aspects are well protected and provided for.
All right. In terms of going to these SRH centers or centers that offer these services, why is it that we feel embarrassed to go because of the stigma around being seen at these centers?
I believe the stigma comes with the way we have been socialized, especially our people, parents, don't want to admit that their children are having sex.
Okay.
And us as children, we don't want to admit to our parents that we are having
having
sex.
sex.
So because of that, we tend to look for these services maybe away from our place of residence or away from places where we have people that know us, because we want to appear more, or like the issue of sex is being like judged from a morality point of view.
Of course.
Yeah, so anything that goes contrary to our morals and what our morals as a people, we tend to attach stigmas around it. So because of that, people have challenges in accessing sexual and reproductive health services.
So are you saying within the society we are not helping ourselves by not talking about sex?
Yes. If we begin to talk about sex and everyone agrees that everyone is having sex and therefore people need to have safe sex. If we begin that conversation within our churches, within our saloons, within
churches?
Definitely.
You wait, are you saying that church
Definitely. I believe that I believe that talking about sexual and reproductive health services or talking about comprehensive sexuality education. Okay, we can begin about the education part. Comprehensive sexuality education. In those youth services, in those other services, we should be able to talk about comprehensive sexuality, sexuality education so that people have the knowledge, so that whenever they are doing it, whether we agree or not, or with them
just
doing
give
it,
them
we
the
have to
information.
give them, equip them with the necessary information so that at least they can make an informed decision.
Yeah.
If we don't do that, they will experiment, or maybe a friend will teach them, or maybe they will research on the internet,
Yeah, Dr. Google is there.
or on other services
So
that
at
might be
least-
dangerous. So I believe as parents or as churches, we would rather teach our own kids on those issues rather than letting internet teach our kids on sexual and reproductive health. And I believe that it will go a long way in reducing the stigma, the stereotypes, and all the negative connotations associated with accessing sexual and reproductive health services.
Right. On that point, Norman, what can be done to improve the access to SRH
I believe
services?
one of the best things that is being done by different organizations is the involvement, direct involvement of the church. Number one, direct involvement of the church in the provision of comprehensive sexuality education. Also the involvement of our traditional structures, our chiefs, our village heads, and all other traditional institutions in the forefront of the provision of sexual and reproductive health services. And also there is need to be an integration of our traditional system as well as our modern system of health or of information provision. Because traditionally the information about sex and everything was left to the aunts and the uncles and whatever, but now it's being provided by the professionals. So how best can we provide referral systems or channels between the traditional people, our aunts and our uncles and our church leaders?
Right.
How best can you provide a linkage between these systems so that
Between the
they can be
two.
able to refer? If someone comes and whispers to the aunt that I've been abused, the aunt will be able
Will
to
be
refer
able
them
to-
to the police. If
right.
someone goes to the pastor and say, I might be pregnant, but I'm opting for an abortion,
They should be able to
they should be
link.
able to link to the professionals. And if someone has STIs or comes to a friend or parents and say, I have an STI, they should be able to link to the professional service. And I believe that that will go a long way in improving the accessibility and acceptability of the provision of sexual and reproductive health services in Zimbabwe.
And what ministries do we have that are involved with SRH?
So, like we have different government ministries that work with different non-governmental, be it local or international organizations that provide sexual and reproductive health services in Zimbabwe.
Right.
We have the Ministry of Health and Childcare, we have the Ministry of Labor and Social Welfare, we have the Ministry of Gender and Public Service, and different other line ministries that work hand in glove with different non-governmental organizations. And also the Ministry of Home Affairs is essential, especially with the provision of victim-friendly services, whether at the police or at the health facilities. Because in most cases, when people have challenges, when there is sexual abuse or something, the police will require them to provide, the health facility require them to provide a letter first before they can be attended to. So those are some of the stakeholders or ministries that are important in the provision of sexual and reproductive health services.
And good SRH services can be achieved. Thank you so much, Norman, for joining us on this episode of The Naked Truth. That's it from Norman and myself. Information will be given after the show, so make sure that you're paying attention. Write it down, get the numbers down. You can get help, you can get information. This has been fun. Until next time, this is The Naked Truth Show. Ikamangopeki, talking all things sex, sexuality, and health. Mwah. Bye.